Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for TWiT specials is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
Now at F8 they're in circles. No, don't pretend like this is Google circle.
Oh my
No.
goodness, that is very interesting.
They're within. So
Holy cow, that is really about as blatant a copy of.
But they had the octagon. Why did they use the octagon?
Over here. Let's see what we got. Oh yeah, we got Nina. We got.
Actually, this is a cool demo because it's apparently looking at her social graph.
Only happening at F8. Connections experience here on the floor. See who we're all connected to. So I'm going to hang out here, see if I can find some more friends, and then head out off and see what else is happening on the floor here. Can't wait to see you guys in a bit. Bye.
That's going to be the newest feature of Facebook, piece of hardware.
That's just something for the developers to play around with at the conference.
Yeah, so it's interesting. They're really producing this as a TV show.
Yeah.
You know, with Razzmatazz and... Of course, the problem with doing something like this, and they have far more viewers than we do right now, almost 50,000 live viewers of their live stream. But the problem with doing something like this is it becomes a big sales pitch for the product. And
well, they know
sometimes the gee whiz element of it just really gets to me.
It's probably because the local news people will cover the same thing later tonight, and they want some great-looking graphics, and then we have these.
Let's bring up the audio. I'm just curious how they're talking.
Was completely bare. And we, got, how many people did it take? Like 100 people?
At least 100 people
At least
to pull
100
all of
people.
just the physical set together. And then there's a whole team of people who've been working on F8 for months.
And you're going to meet some of them later on in the show. You're going to meet the people who designed these awesome designs on the t-shirts.
Very fashionable custom t-shirts.
Yeah. Exploding Rubik's Cubes.
So cool.
I think we should have a count of how many times they say awesome, cool.
That's awesome down there.
There's one.
That's two.
Drink.
No, that's two.
All day, and we're actually meeting the developers that build them. I mean, they're here from all over the world, and it's like creating old friends. You're like, oh, what do you do? What did you build? Like, oh, I use that.
Totally.
We have
Kind of
like
an
19
experience.
countries represented here
Yeah,
today.
people from all over the
Pretty
world.
good.
And like you were saying about headquarters, one of my favorite things is a lot of the furniture that's here at F8 today is actually furniture from our headquarters. So like every coffee stain is probably us.
Cost savings.
Like, if it smells like an engineer slept on it for 2 weeks, it's probably because they did.
Lovely.
It's authentic.
I'll try later to go check
They're
out
like
the
vamp.
countries so we can find the perfect.
You know what? It's keynote time. It's
Oh,
time to
thank
go.
goodness.
So,
They finally got the
We're
word.
watching live coverage of Mark Zuckerberg and the F8 Developers Conference, Facebook Developers Conference. We can take you there, and we will give you our play-by-play as it goes on. Of course, if you want to watch live, a reminder, you don't have to have us in the background. f8.facebook.com. You can watch directly, comment there. 50,000 others are doing so. But if you want to be part of the small, cool kids...
Well, 50,000 as a percentage of Facebook's total audience is a much smaller percentage than the number of people watching us as a percentage of our total audience.
That's a good point.
So what you're saying is Facebook should have put their live stream right on the front of your profile, so that way everybody could see it.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Just be a huge outrage.
Okay, there's the Dharma Initiative in the middle of a green cloud.
This, I mean, to me, this is a really good example of choosing complexity over clarity.
We've got nothing. Is there no audio coming from them? Or
It's a little music.
It's just the music. Okay.
But that logo. See, I don't think you really want to emphasize how complex all of this is and how interconnected. I mean, it's to show how interconnected we are.
Yeah, but it does look incredibly complex.
It's overwhelming, and I think that.
And it may and it's the F8 station.
Yeah.
Under the island.
Yeah.
That must be an homage.
You know, I think it is centered, though, on Facebook's corporate headquarters in
on the map.
Silicon Valley.
That's interesting. Yeah, it probably is. That looks right.
Oh, I didn't even realize there was anything under there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's the world, and that's California.
Yeah.
They still have Greenland with the ice going all the way to the edge.
Dino in our chat room is pointing out that F8 really should be pronounced fate, as in, this is your fate.
Meet your fate.
You can't do anything about
fate,
it. This is
humans.
Will you end up with Google or Facebook running your lives? We're about to find out.
Well, he's wearing the same hoodie.
No, it's Adam Sandberg.
Oh.
Doing the Noah.
Is it really?
Wiley. Yeah. That's Adam Sandberg from SNL.
Oh, it is.
Or Andy Sandberg.
Andy Sandberg, yeah. Of course, he played Mark Zuckerberg on Saturday Night Live.
Very Noah Wiley / Steve Jobs style.
Hey, welcome to F8, okay? We're going to change the universe. I say that every year. All right. I want to start by focusing on some key issues, okay? The first is the importance of authentic identity. I am Mark Zuckerberg. And under this sweatshirt are rock-solid, cut and greased abs. Great. Now let's skip to the part where I brag about user growth. This past year was huge, okay? We've continued to expand throughout the world to the point that, honestly, we just stopped counting you guys. I don't know. To give some perspective, it's more people than the population of Europe. It's more people than are in the cast of Glee. It's even more people than claim they came up with Facebook. Burn! Oh. But how many, you ask? Who cares? Don't ask so many questions. I mean, MySpace asked a lot of questions, and I chloroformed it, drove it out to the desert, and put a bullet in the back of its skull. Kidding, kidding. Not kidding. But my point is our focus has now shifted from user growth to user engagement. User engagement is, of course, when Charlie Sheen gets married. Kidding! He uses drugs a lot. It actually refers...
This is a smart way to get through the numbers portion of the presentation.
The only risk is that Mark will come out and be so boring compared to this.
Share it with your friends.
Maybe he'll just have Andy do the whole thing.
A crazy big number 2.
My prediction is his jokes will get progressively worse until it gets to the point you want him off the stage.
And then Mark rescues him.
You hear me. You know who you are. But the future is heading toward greater openness, okay? Take my dog, for example. Now, B started his Facebook page 6 months ago, and thanks to his deeply personal sharing, he already has 200,000 fans. I mean, this popularity has led to his new moniker, the Lil Wayne of dogs.
My prediction is coming true, by the way.
That's the kind of openness
Seems to be.
he believes in, and this trend is nothing new. In 2008, a young, brash man, Suck Dog, theorized that the amount of people share doubles every year. Now, this came true and is now known as Zuckerberg's Law. It sounds impressive, I know, but actually having your own law is no big deal, okay? Anyone can do it. You just start with a postulate or axiom and work your way up. Or you could hang out with girls. They're both great options. Totally up to you. But the bottom line is you get closer to your authentic identity when you share everything. Even intimate information can be shared in separate groups now.
Audience isn't really.
There are times when
that's what you want.
Just with myself.
They're going
sometimes several times a day. Sometimes in the bathroom at work, which I own, so no one can say it's weird. Right, Greg? Right? Yeah. Okay. I'm also proud to announce some new features on Facebook. For example, a new section in your list of friends. It's called, I'm not really friends with these people. No. Yeah. It's the perfect place to put awkward classmates from middle school, older drunk women.
Just for those of you tuning in, this is not Mark Zuckerberg. It's Andy Samberg from Saturday Night Live doing a little comedy bit before,
I'm not really friends
presumably
with
before
it lets everyone know
Mark joins
I don't want
us.
to be associated with these guys, but I could only ignore them.
Smart way to punch up the numbers. Smart way to get the audience interested opening. Smart way to poke fun at yourself, but maybe going on a little too long, and as you pointed out, risks making Mark Zuckerberg look extra boring.
I do like the self-deprecation, though.
Yeah, that's good.
Introduced a new feature called the slow poke. It's the only poke that takes 24 hours to reach the person you send it to. So you have a full day to sober up, realize you're an idiot, and retract the poke.
That's actually a good idea.
I like that idea. Let's implement that.
I never see him right away anyway.
Horn dog. Yeah.
Can you revoke a poke?
It's a hypothetical slide. Okay. And now here's a song I wrote this morning at breakfast. 2, 3, 4, trail mix. It's crunchy and sweet, yeah, trail mix. Don't drop it on the floor, yeah, 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 yeah.
I never thought I'd want to see Justin Timberlake join him.
There we go.
There, finally. There's the awkward moment where they Handoff.
Oh,
And
I
the
didn't
wrong
know you
lower
were
third.
out here.
Who's Andy? I'm Mark Zuckerberg, rock hard abs.
Okay.
No, I'm Mark Zuckerberg. You're Andy Samberg from SNL.
Yeah, I don't think so. Hoodie, sandals, it's classic Zuck dog. Slide?
Okay.
All right, you can drop the act now, man.
Fine, but I don't know, sometimes I want to be you, Mark. You know, I want to walk in your shoes.
I want to read the
I want
prompter.
to take your face.
Would have been cute if they got Jesse
Don't
Eisenberg
go
to do
face
this.
off.
And Jesse Eisenberg had come out and pulled Andy Samberg off the stage.
Is that for weed again?
I'm Mark Zuckerberg.
Glaucoma.
I think they did that
I'm Mark Zuckerberg.
on SNL
Look, man,
once.
you're just out here making stuff up. The slope-up, that's not even a real feature. The deal was I was going to feed you information through the earpiece and you were going to repeat me.
Earpiece. Oh, right, you mean this. Yeah, I see the problem. It was in my pocket. Technical difficulties, right?
Yeah, dude, we call that user error.
Good one, Mark.
Oh, this is getting painful.
Okay, stop.
Yeah, stop.
Look at us up here, though, right? I mean,
It's like an SNL
it
sketch.
really
This goes
is
on too long.
a
And
gathering of
Yeah,
the
it's pretty much SNL.
I suppose that's
Yeah.
true.
we're waiting.
Zuckerbergs are there.
We don't know how to
funny
stop.
You should ask,
That's the
'cause
problem.
look over here. It's our old pal, Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh, man, don't do impressions.
Oh, hey, Mark, wow. This whole thing is so meta. It's almost Kafkaesque in a sense.
I heard.
If you'd invented Facebook, you would have invented Facebook. I'm sorry. This is going to come out of nowhere. But may I kiss you? May I
No,
kiss you?
don't kiss me. Don't kiss me.
Okay. Sorry, I was in the zone. Something carries away. But uh-oh, look out, because another Berg just showed up, and he's a real fighter.
Oh, no, not Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, Zuck, how's it going? You created Facebook, right? That's pretty cool.
They really want to get their $150,000 worth out
We
of
waited
this guy.
15 extra minutes for this.
No,
Yeah.
you just invented it.
I wonder if they released the press release yet about what happened. Sometimes they leak it on blog, on the
Yeah,
Facebook
would you
blog.
look and see?
I'm
Because I
looking
would
it
love
up
to
right
sum
now.
this up and go.
And then we can go to Windows Weekly.
Facebook blog. Let's go ahead and take a look.
Where's the gong?
All
when
right,
you need it?
Andy. I got to do the keynote. Have a good show
No,
on
their
Saturday.
last news
All
post
right,
is still
I'm probably
about
gonna phone
the
it in,
news
actually.
feed
Use up all my
ticker.
good stuff on this. Beast forever!
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on
Go get
my
'em.
mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
I like the
Andy
bro hug.
Samberg,
Lots of music
everyone.
references. What does it mean? Lil Wayne's out next.
All right, now the real Mark
There
Zuckerberg
we
joins
go.
us.
Or is it?
It's great to be here with you today. It's our 4th F8.
Yeah, it is.
And even though we've launched a lot of things recently, what I want to show you today are 2 of the most exciting things we've been working on in a while. So, although Andy was joking, a lot of the points that he made were actually right. Looking back, the last 5 years of social networking have been about getting people signed up and getting people connected with all of the people in their lives. And until recently, there were a lot of people who weren't sure how big this phenomenon of people connecting online would be, or how long it would last. But by now, I think that most people see that social networks are going to be a ubiquitous tool used by billions of people around the world to stay connected every day. So just last week, we had a pretty cool milestone at Facebook. For the first time ever, in a single day, we had 500 million people use Facebook. 500 million people.
What's that, an 18th of the world?
More and more people continue to
It's
sign
amazing.
up
Yeah.
and
In one
use
day.
the service every day. But going forward, what's even more interesting and exciting than getting people connected and just signing up is all the things that are now possible now that all of these connections are in place. So the next 5 years, the next era, is going to be defined by the apps and the depth of engagement that is now possible now that everyone has their connections already in place and this whole network has already been established.
This is a
So
repeat of
it's an exciting time to
what
be
he
a
said
part
at
of
their
building
last
all these new social apps that are now
product announcement
possible.
not so long ago. The
Today,
next 5 years.
I want to start off by talking about the heart of your Facebook experience, the profile. Because for every major evolution of the product that we've ever done, the profile is at the center. People feel an
was the
intense
newsfeed?
ownership over their profile. It's where you put all your stuff. It's where you have everything about you. Millions of people have invested a ton of time in telling the story of their life on their profile. It's a really personal product. And our job is to make this product the best way for you to share everything that you want and the best way for you to express who you are. Now, how this has worked has changed a bunch over the years. So this is the first profile from 2004.
Wow.
It was so basic. We often talk about your profile at Facebook as if it's what
Color
you share
palette's
with
the same.
someone when you first met them in a first conversation that you were having. This profile is the first 5 minutes of your conversation. It's just the basics. It's an introduction. You can say where you're from, where you went to school, where you work, whether you're in a relationship, maybe list some interests, but not much else. You could post one photo, but there were no photo albums, no groups or events or anything else. There wasn't even a wall. But people loved this product. It was revolutionary because it was the first place that most people had on the internet where they felt safe expressing their real self. This is a pretty big deal. So even though it was only the first 5 minutes of your conversation, it was really valuable to be able to
I assume he
discover
doesn't
this
use that
first 5
Harvard
minutes
email
worth
address
of
anymore.
content about your friends and all
I
the
don't think he's
people around
allowed
you.
to.
But people wanted more ways to express themselves, so we started adding things like status updates and photos and groups and apps, and quickly this profile reached the limit of what it could express. If the first 5 minutes of your conversation is about the basics and an introduction, then the next 15 is about what you've been doing recently in your life. So in 2008, we introduced a completely new profile, and by this point, people were sharing so many things that the focus of the profile had shifted from just a few pieces of basic information that barely ever changed to all of the things that you've shared and done recently. This made the profile a lot richer and more engaging, and it allowed you to have the next 15 minutes of your conversation. But the problem is, we're more than just what we did recently. Most deep conversations that you get into all different parts of your life and all kinds of different things, and on social networks today, that's just not really that easy to do. Sure, you could go down to the bottom of the wall and press more to see a few more weeks worth of content, but who wants to do that more than a couple of times? I don't think anyone. And even if you did, you'd have to wade through every single status update just to get to all the important stuff. So all the stories that you've shared over time just fall off a cliff at the bottom of your wall and effectively disappear. Millions and millions of people have spent years curating the stories of their lives, and today, there's just no good way to share them. We think that this is a real problem, and we think that we have the solution. Instead of having to go to the bottom of your wall and clicking more, imagine expressing the story of your life where you have all the recent stuff that you've done, and then all the most important and meaningful things from your life are highlighted and called out for you to see right there. And because these are the unique moments from your life, imagine an expression that is beautiful. So if the original profile was the first 5 minutes of your conversation, and the stream was the next 15, then what I want to show you today is the rest.
But enough about me. What do you think of me?
It's the next few hours of a great, in-depth, engaging conversation, whether it's with a close friend or with someone you just met.
I think it's an interesting way to contextualize what they're doing.
It's the heart of your Facebook experience, completely rethought from the ground up.
This won't take off anybody.
So this is the first thing that I want to show you today. We've been working on it all year, and we're calling it Timeline.
Oh, and applause for a word, and that's pretty exciting.
Maybe it was the cube transition. You got him.
So using Keynote?
Timeline is the story of your life. And it has 3 pieces.
As Holy Cow said in the chat room. Dun, dun, dun.
All your apps, and a new way to express who you are. All your stories, all your apps.
And a new way to express who you are, yeah.
I've been watching Steve Jobs.
Did you get that? All your stories,
It's
all your apps.
one product.
And a new way to express.
An internet
We think
communicator.
you're going to love it.
The first thing you're going to notice is that it's just a lot more visual. Down at the bottom here,
there's
you
Beast.
have
It's a
all
blog.
your stories. So here's a nice
Is this
visual.
the new
this
profile
is a
page?
photo
Yes.
of a bunch of engineers at Facebook working on some of the products that we're going to roll out today. This bottom section, all your stories, it's just like the wall. It's just laid out. It's much more nicely designed.
Yeah, but the wall's below
Over
the
on
fold,
right there,
practically.
You'll see years, and you can just use that to quickly get to any point in your life, and you can just see all your content. In the middle here,
It's a lot better design, I have to say. I mean,
so you can get to all of your apps and all of the stuff that you've
a little bit
done
influenced
in
by
any of your apps.
About.me, I would
Of course,
guess.
on top,
with the big
Kind of remember the old Google
cover
profile.
photo,
With,
so you can express who you are. All your stories, all your apps, a new way
Cooked
to
ramp and
express who
bacon
you are.
omelet.
Now, this isn't your home page with the news feed, right? This is the profile.
profile
This is your profile page.
Which is not your first page on Facebook, generally, unless they've changed this. This is what people would see when they click
Now,
your name, I guess.
let's take a look at a full timeline.
Oh, boy.
Oh, so happy.
This is probably something you and maybe 2 other people care about.
You just scroll past, rolls up.
Your mom
It's
cares
a
about
it's
it.
a blog.
Great photos,
Family,
map of the
wife,
places that I've been.
husband.
I kind of like this, but it is, you're right. It's you're going to have to be,
Mark Zuckerberg doll,
it's got to be somebody who's very interested in you.
some friends that I made, all the places that I've been to, and it just keeps going, and there are all the years of my life right here.
Wow. You're right. This is, you hit the nail on the head. This is more about you.
Yeah. Which doesn't mean it won't work.
No. People like looking at things about themselves.
Yeah.
And here's what it looks like on a mobile device.
This is a massive redesign. I can see how they've been
There you go.
working
Let's
so
just
long.
breeze through that.
You're watching live coverage of Mark Zuckerberg's keynote at the F8 Facebook Developers Conference.
So that's timeline. Now I want to show you how it works. The biggest challenge that we had designing Timeline was figuring out a way to help you tell all the important stories from your life on a single page. You don't just want to show only your recent stuff, because that would just be the wall. But you also don't want to show every single little thing that you've ever done, because a lot of that stuff isn't really critical in defining who you are, especially as you go back in time. So what Timeline does is it starts off showing all the stuff you've done recently, and as you go further back in time, it starts summarizing and surfacing only the important things from your life. And the further back you go,
We've seen
the more
third-party
it'll
web
summarize
apps that do
for
something
you.
similar to this.
This month, for example, Timeline might show
Facebook's
everything that I've
probably
done.
better equipped to do it than
last
anybody
month
else.
a little less, and then for the rest of the year before that a little less, and last year even less, and so on. This is the magic behind how Timeline works, and it's how you can tell the whole story of your life on a single page. So now, to take a look, you can scroll down to my recent section, and you'll just see all of my stories right here. Here's a nice photo of me and Chris from Chris's wedding. And
Simulates
there's a
forgetting.
nice post right at the top for us celebrating our first day with 500 million people. So the stories are much nicer. It's just like the wall that you had before. Everything that you've shared recently is right here.
Joshua
Now,
Topolsky says
if
it's
you wanna
like
go back in
Apple's
you can
time
just go
machine
ahead
for
to
your
the right
life.
And click on a year in the time slider. I'm going to click on 2007, and it'll just scroll you down quickly to 2007.
ODB in our
And
chat room
what you'll see
says,
here is that this isn't
it's how we
all
and
of the stuff that I
advertisers can
did in
access everything
2007.
we need to know about
It's
your
just
life
the most important stuff.
on a
So
single page.
here's,
It's what
photos
advertisers
and
have already
stuff
seen
that
about
can
you.
roll
Yeah,
up.
that's
Now
true.
you can
They
look
know
at it,
this.
too.
Really exciting time. And you can see this timeline running down the middle here. And on it, there are 2 kinds of dots. There's these blue dots that are lit up that are showing important content that's highlighted, and there are these gray dots because they're showing things that are less important, maybe comments or little things that I did during
I
that
do
time
like
period
this,
that
and
are
I think it'll
hidden.
be fun
But
if you've got,
it's all there.
if you spend a lot of time on
You can get it all
Facebook,
if
you
you
put a
want.
lot of
It's your whole
content.
life.
How many times will it be fun?
So if you
Well,
want to see
that's
one of
true.
these things that's hidden, you just go ahead.
I think it'll be.
and
I definitely can't wait to see
shows
what
up.
it
It's-
comes up with.
in
It's
this
gonna be
case,
interesting
you
with
can see
like the
Timeline
relationship
has
pages they
decided to
have
hide
to
a
see
picture
how
of an
you've
empty podium,
like
not a bad choice.
if your wife is on Facebook and
and-
you're like, oh, look at us last
But
year,
it's
the
all
year
right.
before.
If I wanna
and
go
the year
Oh,
to,
wouldn't that be interesting to make a joint
To
page?
see everything in 2007, I
Joint
can just click
timeline.
on that link, and it's all there.
There's his
And
girlfriend,
it'll-
by
you
the
may
way.
discover something
it'll show
about
up.
yourself.
It's so simple. It's this is exactly how you want to browse through time. It's a great way to discover all the stuff that people have done their whole life. So, since this is
Demon
my whole
beats
life,
all.
I have to be able to add stuff, right? So how do
I
I
just
do
want to
that?
point out Mark has
Say I wanna
incorrectly
add this
placed his
photo from my
countryman
childhood.
microphone.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to go
Weird.
ahead and click on the
Those,
timeline on
those
the
who live in glass twit brick houses.
I'm going to click that I want to add the photo, and
We should have made it out of glass.
There
You're
we are.
right.
I still have that tie. It's really cool. It's really fun and easy to fill out your.
You know who
timeline
else will want to
with
see
all
this,
the
of course, is
stories from your
employers,
past.
prospective
Well,
that'll be
boyfriends and
interesting. Who has
girlfriends.
access to your
Yeah.
timeline?
Yeah.
But other times, you want to add an important event from your life. So in order to make this easy,
Great Dane, we invite you to tune in Zuck without our commentary at
The way you add these is the same. You just click on the
f8.facebook.com.
timeline, you
Those
go
of
to the
you who
major
don't
life
want to hear
event
us.
that you want to add. In this case, I'm going to add that I got a dog, which I did earlier this year. Fill out Beasts info, add a photo, and there we are.
Zuckerberg has said people don't want to make lists. In a way, he's saying people don't want to make blogs. This is a blog that makes itself.
Yeah. And probably better than
So this is the
you
main
might make
timeline.
in most cases.
It's got all my stuff here. But what do you do if you want to see timeline filtered down to just one type of content? Well, you can click on these nice visual tiles at the top, and you can go to these filters that we've designed that what we call timeline views that take you to a view of timeline that just shows one type of content. So here's the photos timeline view. And you can see, here's some people.
So you can categorize
working
it as
Facebook,
well
friend graduating,
by kind
theme
of
day at
content.
Facebook, some people visiting.
Wow.
Everything there.
Again, encouraging
Much
you
nicer
to
than anything we have today.
use Facebook for
And
all your
I also
photo
want to show you
storage.
this map timeline view.
The map's interesting.
You can see everywhere that you've been on a map. It's really neat. You can see I spent a lot of time in California. There are a bunch of trips to New York to visit my family.
Now, Google
Thanksgiving
Plus
with the
does
family
that.
In Florida. Trips to
based on where
Europe,
you've lived.
So does
a
iPhoto.
bunch
Yeah,
of
that's
our
right. But
offices out there. It's all right there.
Again, this all plays
You
off
can use the timeline slider on the
the
right to
fact
see where you were in a period. This
that
is
Facebook
earlier
has
this
so much
year.
more
You
information
can go
about
all
us.
the way back to where you were born. It's pretty cool.
And if you're smart, if
I'll
you're
show you
Facebook, you
more
play to
timeline
your
views
lock-in.
in a bit. That's just
You play to, how do you keep customers by
So
playing
that's
to the stuff
overview
that
of how you
you do
see all of your
best?
stories on timeline. Now I want to talk about apps and how apps are going to help you tell the story.
I'm curious about how apps work into the timeline. I don't want all my Mafia Wars experiments.
If you want to know
Just
more
Tiny
about this,
Tower.
thanks to our chat room,
When we first rolled out
facebook.com/timelines.
2007, perhaps the most common thing that people used apps for was to add boxes of things that they wanted to their profiles. If you remember at the time, people add so many boxes. A lot of people added
sign me
50 or
up,
60
it
or even
says.
100 boxes. It was
Timeline
really
is coming
crazy.
soon. We'll
It
let you know as soon
way
as it's
more than we
ready, so.
expected. They just added them to the bottom of their profile, and it quickly became unwieldy. We learned from the
It looks like,
experience
at least initially, it'll be an
that
opt-in feature.
people really want to use apps to express themselves. And even though they couldn't all fit into the old profile design, we took those lessons and we designed them into timeline. So now you can use apps to express as much content as you want on your timeline. So we think that people are
This is
going to
the
want to
media
express
sharing
all
feature.
kinds of things about their lives. And the way they're going to do this is they're going to rely on apps to help them out.
So this is on their timeline
What kinds
page.
of content can I put on my timeline? Well, you can start sharing things from apps in just the same way that you did before, and they'll show up as these nicely designed timeline stories. So if we zoom down a bit, here is an example where I'm using a social cooking app to add that I'm cooking delicious bison
Did you
burgers,
kill that bison yourself?
which were delicious. And now, so that's just a normal story right there. Since timeline can help you summarize all your stories, no activity is too big or too small to share. So if you want, you can add a box of right to the top of all the recent stuff that you've done with an app. It's all right there. An app can help you do that. And because timeline summarizes things for you, this is one of those things that as it gets rolled up into a past time period is probably going to become one of those gray dots. Now, one of the
There's
big
been
new
some
things
talk
we've
about
added
Mark wanting to
is
get
called
people under the age of
reports.
13 to use Facebook. And of
This
course,
is a
for this to
report of
work,
everything that I've cooked so
you
far.
will want your kids to have their pictures and
Yeah, it's like a baby book.
And in the demo that the demo video they have, they in fact start with birth.
And better for expressing yourself than showing every single thing
This
that
is
you've done.
Facebook's way to get you
apps
locked
can
in
help you
at
roll
birth.
up all the activity that
Your
you're taking.
Social Security
into
card
these
and
nice
Facebook
reports. And
timeline.
you get them every month.
No
and
need
every
for a social
year.
security card anymore.
And
Just
you just get a
outsource that to
nice summary
Facebook.
that it's really interesting and it helps you express who you are on your timeline. And we think that people are really going to like
Facebook Connect for Social Security.
so I can just go ahead and click on any of those stories, and it'll take me to a timeline view where I can just see all of the content from my timeline all the way back in time. So if the app has added history to my timeline, you can just zoom back and you can see everything that I've ever cooked or the reports.
DJ
It's all
Dick
right
says
here.
there was a company called Timelines Inc. that did similar
How do you add
stuff.
an app to
Yeah,
your
I think I had one.
Well, you can add apps in
Storify,
all
there's a
the
number
same
of
ways
companies
you
that
would
do
have
something
discovered
like
apps
this.
He's
before.
wondering if they bought.
But one way that we think that you're going to discover a lot of apps is from your friends' timelines. So here's Brett's timeline, and I see he has this nice running app that he's using to keep track of his runs. And I think that's pretty cool. So I'm just going to hover over it and click Add to Timeline, and I'm going to get this nice pop-up that, well, we're supposed to.
There it is.
Yeah, there we go. That is a nice quick permission screen, which, as you can see, it's completely redesigned now around the idea that the reason why you're adding these apps is that you can add stuff to your timeline. So it shows you the type of story that's going to be there, and I can just click on it, add to my timeline. It's right on my timeline. It's really easy.
This is nifty.
I think this is pretty compelling, to be honest with you.
Can help you tell the story.
It really completes their pivot from a private-facing company to a public-facing company. You're now building a page for public consumption.
You're documenting you.
Yeah.
With Timeline, we didn't just want to design a place for you to put all your stories and apps. We wanted to design a place that feels like your home. Where you tell your story online is really personal. You invest a lot of time in it, and you curate it.
It's WordPress.com and companies like that.
I don't want to have to curate another thing.
So we wanted to make Timeline a place that you're proud to call your home.
I think they know that, though. And I think a lot of this is automated.
Yeah,
so Timeline is a completely new aesthetic for Facebook. And it starts with giving you the ability to highlight and curate all your stories so that you can express who you really are. So the first thing you're going to notice when you go to someone's timeline is this cover photo right at the top. What better way to tell the story of who you are?
That, of course, is directly from About Me and Flavors.me. About Me was purchased by AOL.
So you can use your cover to express a unique moment from your life, something that you're interested in. It's just a great way to learn about who a person is without having to read anything about them at all.
Mark is a dog.
Now, you can change your cover.
Facebook has been always very good at taking the best of other sites.
Some people change it every day.
Well, and Apple's success relies a lot on that, taking the best of other companies.
Pick a new photo, you crop it, and boom, another cool beast photo. I just love the way his dad looks. I can't wait until he looks like that. So that's the top of your timeline. So what about highlighting important events from your life? Now, take this photo of me and Priscilla. This is from the first road trip that we took together. It's our first vacation. So it's a really meaningful photo for me. And I want to highlight it on my timeline. So how do I do this? Well, you can just hover over any story that you want on timeline. You get this star. And you can click it, and you get a big version of the story that you can just feature on your timeline as a major event. And starring also tells Timeline what is important to you, so that as it helps you summarize your past events, it just calls out all the important stuff and features all the stuff that you want it to.
Sends that right off to the CIA,
so that they too.
Well, that's always the thing with this kind of sharing, right? What's the balance?
And if there's something
Who
that
gets to
Timeline
see
missed
this?
because it's behind one of those gray dots, you just go ahead and you hover over the gray dot, and you can add it. It's right there. You have complete control over everything on your timeline.
Of course, Mark's personal assistant and a team of 14 designers created this particular timeline.
So if you want to see,
that up,
you can just
I
go
think
into
it's the
the
case.
and so you can see it, and you can change the privacy in line by just clicking on it, and there we go. This is a cool one, so let's make it public. So timeline is for you to express who you are.
So you do have controls of what's public and what's not.
Of course, Facebook has all you do.
Facebook sees it all
the time.
And who can see it.
You know, I don't see any ads on the
timeline. One of the things that
timeline.
I've just found amazing with Timeline is
That's an interesting point.
I don't know if it's just for the demo.
Ads would hurt the aesthetic, wouldn't they?
Or would it be like a 2007, you bought a Sony TV?
Here's a traveler.
Yeah, I'm curious.
And as you scroll through it, you can just see all these beautiful pictures from the trips that she's been on.
Interesting to approach Amazon and say, can we integrate sales data for Iyaz Akhtar into his timeline?
And he wanted this on his wish list on that day.
Also, the ticker is not there on the right. Instead, you get that slider. The ticker is persistent right now across all your pages.
Nice cover right at the top.
That sidebar ticker they just introduced.
Yeah, I suspect the ads are going to go right under that sliding bar.
Looking at this, I mean, without even getting into the content, you just get this nice visceral feel for who this.
I have to say, I
person
like
is.
this.
It's really cool.
Almost a different company.
Of course,
it's definitely a different style of site. Facebook. I like it.
I've showed most of the stuff today on web, just because with the bigger screen, it's easier to explain it. But all of this stuff just works beautifully on fully immersive mobile devices. And here's a runner's timeline on mobile. And again, you just see all the photos of her running, all the way back to when she was a little kid.
JPin1 says he's most interested in Zuckerberg's growth as a pitchman. He is much more polished.
He's done a hell of a job so far. Yeah. better than Andy Samberg. This is a very Jobs-like slide, by the way.
Life, you have all your stories, all your apps.
And again, he
and a
repeats
new
that
way to
tagline.
express
He's gotten,
who you
I
are.
agree, he's
And
gotten
now,
quite polished.
I'd like to show you a little video
And
that we
even
made
his
about
bottle of
timeline.
Oh, boy.
Actually, I've already seen this video. This is at facebook.com/timelines if you want to see it. And again, this is the, I guess you can add stuff to your timelines after the fact. But don't you think a parent would want to make sure that
time travel?
Yeah. Facebook would want to make
Back to the
sure.
beginning of time, endless scrolling.
I think as a parent, you'd want to create that page.
Yeah,
and start it.
It's kind of neat video.
It's very Google, by the way. It's sad, isn't it? Even to the music.
It is. The only thing that that concerns me is that Facebook still does not give you control over encryption of your data and keeping it private from them. If you're going to start putting this much curation, this much data in one place, I want a lot more control of it.
Come on, baby. Somebody in the chat room was like, I'd like to delete 2007.
You can.
There's got to be a one button.
Must be.
Delete this year, please. Well, this is pretty cool. And then, of course,
data portability. Can you take this out?
Now, they have data portability. I mean, they have, up to now, had the ability to take all your data out as a zip file. So I presume that they would. That's pretty cool. I have to say, I think it's quite a product.
It's done.
We're really proud of Timeline.
You're watching live coverage of
it's an
the
important
F8
next
Developer
step
Conference. Mark
to
Zuckerberg,
help you
CEO
tell
of
the story of your
Facebook,
life.
talking about new Facebook features.
But even more important, in order to make this work, we've had to invent a completely new class of apps. So that's what I want to talk to you about next. The next version of Open Graph and a completely new class of apps.
And this is a developers conference, so that's
Facebook's mission is to make the world more open and connected. And the way that we do this is by helping you map out all of the things that you're connected to so you can have a more personal experience in all of the apps and things that you do. We often talk about this map that we're helping you create as a graph of connections. And in 2007,
They're smart to play up design, because this is one area where Google has lagged.
Yeah.
All of the
it is not
relationships
known as a
between
strength for
people in the
Google.
world.
And frankly,
Last
Facebook
year,
too.
No, that's true.
We introduced the concept of the Open Graph as not only the map of all the relationships in the world, but the map of all of the connections in the world. And as a first step towards this, we made it so that you can add anything you wanted to the map and that you could connect to it by liking it. And this made it so that you could connect to an order of magnitude more things than you could before. This year, we're taking the next step. We're going to make it so that you can connect to anything you want in any way you want. So now, you don't have to like a book. You can just read a book, which is good because you've probably read about 10 times more books than you'd want to like on Facebook anyway. And you don't have to like a movie. You can just watch a movie, which is also pretty good because you've probably also watched about 10 times as many movies as you'd want to like on Facebook. You can just eat a meal. You can hike a trail. You can listen to a song. You can connect to anything.
Listen to a song.
Any way you want. And we think that this is going to make it so that you can make an order of magnitude more connections than you could before.
Jeff Jarvis on Twitter. Facebook just increased the switching cost of leaving Facebook. You lose your life.
He said it in a more eloquent way, but that's exactly what I was saying. This is all about lock-in.
A small number of basic things, like who you were friends with. Then last year, when we introduced the Open Graph, we added nouns. So you could like anything that you wanted.
And this year, we're adding verbs.
We're adding verbs. We're going to make
How'd you know?
connect to anything in any way
Next
you
year.
want.
You're channeling him ahead of time.
Building this language for how people connect is pretty important. So we're doing it carefully and slowly. And every year, we take the next step, and we make some new social apps possible, and we make it so that people can express themselves in new ways. So how is this going to help you express yourself in new ways? Well, one thing that we've heard over and over again is that people have things that they want to share, but they
Skate
don't
Action
want to
says
annoy
next
their
year,
friends
prepositions.
by putting boring stuff in their news
That's
feed.
after adverbs and adjectives.
So you have stuff that you'd share, but you don't want to annoy your friends. So if the problem is that when you post something, it goes into newsfeed and takes up all your friends' attention, then our solution is to create a new place that's lighter weight, where you can see lighter weight stuff that's going on. And that's how we came up with Ticker. So Ticker is a lightweight stream of everything that's going on around you. And something might catch your attention out of the corner of your eye, but because it's moving by so quickly, you'll never feel annoyed by a friend if their lightweight activity shows up there. So when you share a post, it goes into newsfeed. But when you add activity through the Open Graph, it goes into Ticker, and it goes onto your timeline, but it's not going to show up in newsfeed unless there's a particularly interesting pattern that your friends are gonna want to see. So that's what this update to the Open Graph is going to do. Before today, there was really no socially acceptable way to express lightweight activity. And now there is.
Except Twitter.
And we think that this is going to make it so that people can express an order of magnitude more things than they could before. So that's what we're going to do today.
This is Twitter read as Mad
That's
Libs.
what this next version of Open Graph is all about.
You provide the
We
verb.
spent the last year making it so that you can connect to anything you want in any way you want. You just define an action and you publish it. That's it. It's really easy.
This is
It's simple, but it's really, really
a little
powerful.
disingenuous of
And we
him to
think that
imply that
this
they've
is gonna
invented
make it
this when it's
possible to build
clearly a Twitter
completely
clone.
new class of social apps that weren't possible.
Not a completely new
Well,
class of
within
anything.
the universe of Facebook, it's
Yes.
completely new. That's the
Yes.
part he's leaving. Yeah.
A lot of apps. We believe that eventually almost all apps that you use are going to be social, but in the world there's a natural spectrum from behaviors that are really naturally social to ones that aren't. And the ones that are naturally social are going to be the ones that turn into social apps first. So on one side of the spectrum, you have really social things like communication and games. There are already social apps for those.
Yeah, I think we've already
And on the
seen
other
these
side of the spectrum
categories in the subscription
are
options.
Things that are really sensitive and private, like healthcare, finance, that I think there probably won't be social apps for a long time. Now, with this update to Open Graph, we're going to expand the set of industries and products that are becoming social to now include a couple more. And first is everything to do with media. Music,
go.
movies, TV, news, books, all really naturally social. We think that there are going to be great Open Graph apps. In this
Jason
category.
Kincaid is pointing out on
And the next
TechCrunch
is what we
that this
call
is
lifestyle
returning the
apps.
capability of apps to post into
They're
your
apps
feed,
for
something that was
helping you
removed
keep
for
track
a
of
very
and
brief
expressing
period of time.
all kinds of different things about your life. Your runs, your bike rides, your cooking and eating, your sleeping, your happiness, your fashion, anything you want. So
very
today,
MySpace, really.
we're making it possible to build a completely new class of apps and to rethink a lot of industries. at the
Restoring a
same time.
limited amount of ability to post, yeah.
So let's take a closer look. The Open Graph is going to enable apps that primarily focus on two types of things. The first is helping you fill out your timeline, which we've already discussed. And the second is helping you discover new things through your friends. And we're going to do this in three ways. With frictionless experiences, real-time serendipity, and finding patterns in your friends' activity.
And he didn't take the lesson from Apple.
So let's start with frictionless experiences.
You probably will trademark
Now,
real-time
I'm not
serendipity.
happy you guys saw this
Sure nobody
internet
else has
meme
tried
that was
that.
going around of the classic game Mario, where this iconic image where he finds his first mushroom and all of a sudden it pops up a box prompting you to share it on Facebook. I cried when I saw this.
Yeah, yeah. You should.
Now, I appreciate that whoever made this realized that all modern games should be social, but I also empathize with it because it really is one of the worst experiences on our platform today when you're just in the middle of some app doing something and all of a sudden it just pops something up and asks you to share. So today we want to make it so that this is you no longer have to do this. So if you're using one of these new Open Graph apps, you're going to be able to add activity to your timeline without ever having to see one of these prompts again. You can still publish to the stream if you want. Yeah, no, I'm happy.
I'm happy.
You can
Clap.
still publish to your stream if you'd like. But if your goal is to just add lightweight activity, you'll never have to see one of these prompts again. So the best way to think about these kind of apps is that you're just
social lube,
connecting the app and your
frictionless
timeline together. You're adding all of the activity and history in the app to your timeline.
Astroposts.
And you're going to automatically keep them in sync going forward. So that way, anything that you do in the app gets added to your timeline.
So to make
KY
this work,
we completely redesigned the permission
our live
dialog
coverage of the
around
Facebook
the idea
F8
that
keynote.
The reason why you're adding an app is that you
Social.ky.
can add this activity. So in this case, I'm going to add Spotify. And I showed you this before, but
Spotify, our first music streaming service.
of what I just discussed. So you'll notice that it's really clear to me what Spotify is going to do. Right at the top, it says, this is what Spotify is going to add to your timeline. The songs that you've listened to, your radio stations, the albums that you listen to, and you get this nice big
so it does it without annoying you. So instead you just annoy your friends.
You're never surprised.
Right.
And you can control who
Will that be
sees
in the
it.
But your friends can now control what they see by
they could turn that
class, so
off.
they can turn you off,
So I'm
but
just
without
gonna
turning
go
all
ahead
of you
and
off.
add the timeline.
Is that something that goes into
Now
the
Spotify is on my
feed or
timeline,
the ticker?
And
Feed.
now it can add activity for
It
me.
says to
only
your
has
timeline
posts.
is what it's saying.
Yeah.
That would be a
And
very
of course, I can
granular
modify
timeline if every song I listen to over the next
It's a
40
frictionless
years goes into it.
Because Spotify made clear to me early what kind of activity it was going to publish, and I saw the story and I was like, yeah, that looks cool, I want that. Now, Spotify isn't going to have to prompt me every time I do something, and it's going to add activity to my timeline. So it's a frictionless experience. So how is this going to help you discover new things through your friends? Well, it turns out that your friends are already doing a lot of things around you all the time. They just don't have a good way to share it today. So as soon as we light this up, all of these dots that are out there are going to be connected, and you're going to discover a lot of things that your friends are already doing around you right now. We call this real-time serendipity. So now, even before I start using Spotify, I can see what my friends are doing
RS, for
live
sure.
as they listen to songs in my ticker. And this creates a lot of serendipitous discovery. So if one of my friends listens to a new song, they'll just tick right in.
So it goes
okay,
into your
that looks
ticker,
cool.
you're right.
So you just hover over it,
Ticker's a good place to put it.
Yep.
There's a lot of crap in there anyway.
and we can play it in line,
Oh, you can play it right from there.
which we're not going to do right now.
That's kind of what I
It'll just
anticipated.
start playing
Yeah.
on Spotify.
This is what that tweet
I'm listening to a
implied,
song with my
was that
friend.
your ticker would have
My music
the
is
song
synced
and then
up.
I could listen at the same
It's a
time.
really cool experience. You have to experience it for yourself, but you discover a huge amount of new music this way. Now, of
I
course,
like that.
If
That's
you
not
play a
bad at all.
song
It's
from a
great,
friend,
yeah.
or if
And it's a
another
good way to
friend
handle it.
does, then that activity is going to be added to ticker, so your friends or your friends' friends can see it. And in this way, listening can spread really quickly through the graph. It's a really neat phenomenon to see. Now, some activity is more interesting than others. So if someone's listening to a song, that may be interesting for a few minutes. So ticker is a great place to surface that. But let's say that something that's a bit rarer happens, or if there's some interesting pattern. For example, in this case, Dan has created a whole playlist. That doesn't happen every day. Or a bunch of my friends, in this case, just a couple, but I mean, these stories can get huge, just listen to the same artist at the same time.
So this
pretty
is
cool.
considered an activity
So
then?
those are patterns
Goes
that are
in-
interesting, and Newsfeed has decided, okay, those are interesting enough things that we're going to highlight those because we want you to have an opportunity to discover
That's
them.
what I was showing earlier,
In
where
this
a lot
case,
of people
I
were
have
talking
to
about
do a
F8. It
3D
aggregated
fan
those
already,
stories
so
into one
of course you
blob
could
saying,
click on this and
these
it
are
would
all
start
the
playing in
people talking about
Spotify.
F8 right
I'm not
now.
going to do that here. I'll probably just go ahead and comment on Dan's taste. You finally discovered Green Day. Good work. It's amazing how much music you can discover through your friends. It's really cool. You just see it flow by on the side of your screen or in your news feed if there's an interesting pattern, and you discover a lot of new stuff this way. Now, sometimes you discover things that your friends are doing right now. But
Facebook
other
is
times,
essentially trying
you want
to
look at patterns that are building up over a
eliminate
longer period
the
of
difficulty of doing this by
So in this
hand
case,
on the one
If I
hand
want to learn about a friend's
and
music
simplifying the
taste,
complexity on the
I
other hand
probably
by
don't wanna look at
automating
every
all of
single
this.
song they've ever
Yeah.
listened to. I want to look at
If they
a
do this
robot
right,
and a
it's
summary
extremely powerful.
of what their favorite
Or you can be very
songs and
embarrassed
artists
if you're
are,
constantly listening to
and
Britney
maybe
Spears. It's
stats
showing up
about
in your
It'll
ticker.
aggregate.
genres
How do you
that
stop
they
that?
like,
Iyaz has
some
listened to
other
Britney
things.
Spears
Which I
83
do
times.
constantly.
You find out things about yourself you didn't want to.
Like, I don't
So
want to
here's
be that
the
person.
music timeline view from
Too late.
Brett's timeline.
Look, there's the
You
essential
are.
Kenny G.
And
Like, I mean,
can
right
just
there.
see all his stuff that he listens to. Apparently his top song and top album are Kenny G.
They've outed Brett.
Can you?
Brett, we might have to talk about that after F8.
Can we X out of that? Or like,
I can see all the other stuff that he's listening to.
And Tech9.
And,
now there's a mix.
Of course, I can just hover over any of this. And
Tech9 and Kenny G.
Kenny
Those
G
go together.
Kenny G is for coding.
Tech9's for other
in your
things.
friends' activity, you can discover some really neat new things.
I love it.
So you have frictionless experiences, real-time serendipity,
and real-life embarrassment,
and finding patterns in activity,
and deriving and integrating
now let's put
functions.
it all together and take a look.
Robert Scobles talked about this as the noise problem on G+,
right.
and he's of the opinion that Facebook has licked it by
I'm on Facebook,
these
and all of a
automated
sudden,
systems.
I
Look at the
see-
size of his
I see a
ticker.
bunch
Well,
more friends
Scobles
listening
the
to stuff
test
on the
case
side
for
of the
that,
screen.
right?
Yeah, Mr. Noise.
How
come his ticker's so big? Can I
just hover over it?
Can I make my
I'm
ticker bigger? Oh, there's an ad for that.
Going to be listening to the song with them, which means that as soon as I do that, I'm going to be subscribed to
Look
their
how big his
listening as they
ticker
play
is.
music. I'm
ticker
going to be
envy.
playing along with them. And
Not right.
And we'll have a nice ability to talk about it and all that. It's really cool.
He's probably
So
got
let's
an
take a
in
look.
at Facebook somewhere. I don't know.
Which song should we play? That one. I like Jay-Z. Listen with Mike. Here we go.
Do you have the rights to stream that, Mark?
He's the rights to Jay-Z. Personally.
Only 6 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. I guess they paid for it. But have we paid for it? Oh, my God.
Doc, wait, you're not hearing
So
this.
you're watching the F8 conference.
Yeah, we're talking right over it, so you will not be...
Now we have to pay for sync rights.
We want to thank the folks at Slingbox, by the way, for making this possible. All breaking news on TWiT is provided by
20th anniversary
Slingbox.
of the song.
Visit slingbox.com to find out about the greatest gadget your life has ever seen. Or buy one at Best Buy or Amazon.
And
Slingbox.com.
I had a notification in the corner, and I can see Austin listened to this Kanye West song that he saw from me. And this is actually one of the coolest parts of the whole product, right? I mean, being able to click on someone's music and play it is a great experience, but knowing that you helped a friend discover something new and that they like your taste in music and that you now have that in common is awesome.
Mr. Dyson's observed that the
so when someone
verbs in
discovers something
Facebook
from you, you
really
get a
are the
notification,
semantic
and, of
web.
course, I like the song, so I can
And
just go ahead and play it right
it's
here.
true that they have, for the consumer, implemented this notion of the semantic web. It's very
It's an interesting step in that direction.
I wonder
Yeah.
if that's going to help Microsoft with Bing, since they have that partnership with Facebook. They'll be able to search through a lot more data.
That's right.
Since you are using their terminology. If you liked
The
this,
thing that always concerned me about Facebook is that they seem to be wanting to grab the entire internet and make all of your internet activity internal to
with a lot
Facebook. And
of
I think this is going
partners
to
on
do
this.
it, to be honest with you. I think it's very
And I'm
attractive.
really excited about what this next wave of music companies is doing with Open Graph.
You will live in Facebook all
They
day.
believe that
You
the
could,
key to
yeah.
making
Could,
the music
easily.
business work isn't trying to block
All your
you from
apps are
listening
there.
to songs you
Why
haven't
do you need
bought.
your
music?
It's trying to help you discover so many songs that you end up buying even more content than you ever would have otherwise.
Oh, that's good.
In order to make this model work, you have to discover a lot more music. And the best way to do this is to discover it through your friends. So developers are using Open Graph not only to rethink music,
The
but to rethink
Spotify
the whole
app
music industry.
that's been around on Facebook
And
for a
I
while
think that
is no
Spotify
longer
has
there.
done a particularly
So
good
I
job
think this
with
is a
That's a
prelude
So I
to
wanted to
yeah.
show you their app today.
a new
And
app.
now, I'd like to invite Spotify CEO Daniel Ek up here to talk about what they're doing with Open Graph.
it's an iTunes painkiller.
Daniel?
There's somebody in the chat room.
This makes so much sense because Spotify is ultimately social music and a perfect tie-in for
Now, the rumors previously were that we would also see this for other services like
Rdio,
and
Mog,
and
yeah.
Mark and hi,
Geezer,
everyone.
which is a French.
So today is a big day for Facebook, and it's a big day for Spotify. But most importantly, it's a big day for everyone who loves music. I remember the first time when I used Facebook.
Is it a good day for
back in
musicians?
the day.
Possibly.
I reconnected with
Maybe.
old friends, and I discovered things about them that I didn't know. It was like serendipity. However, with all due respect, Mark, something could have made it even better. Music. So, like most of you, music has always been a very important part of my life. But finding new music has been difficult. I mean, people discover music through their friends. In the old days, we even used to go to each other's houses and browse the record collections. But
the
up
shirt
until
that he's
now,
wearing
that hasn't
says
been possible to do
Spotify. You can only see the P, the
So
O,
at
and the T
Spotify,
because of his
I
jacket.
became
Yeah.
obsessed with what the next generation
Not
music
Felicity.
service ought to look like. And we knew
That's
that
what
the
I
service
call
had to be free,
frictionless
so away from
serendipity.
piracy. helping them to listen to even more music. And to do that, we also knew that the service would have to be inherently social. And there really couldn't be a better place to do it at than Facebook.
Yes, we know.
So a bit over 10 years ago, something changed the music industry, and that was Napster. The problem then was that it didn't work for the music industry. So we spent the last few years building a service which really fairly compensates artists, where people can also discover more music through browsing each other's collections. And it's a
If you're tuning in for Windows Weekly, we will get to that in a moment, but we're watching right now live coverage of the Facebook F8 Developers Conference and the Mark Zuckerberg keynote. Some big announcements for Facebook, a major shift.
Or that I'm into really bad one-hit wonders of the 80s. Well, put that on top of Facebook's 800 million users. Wow. And the world will light up with music. So
I'm not sure what he's on to talk about yet.
Millions of users around the world.
The history of
users
music
who connect to Facebook
on the internet,
listen
like Napster.
to more music on a weekly basis. But they also listen to a wider variety of music.
Did you know that Facebook
400 million
posts 4% of all the photos ever taken?
Social, they're more engaged.
How much?
4% of all the photos ever taken.
I think I saw a stat that their photo library dwarfs the Library of Congress's library.
And I think, you know, this timeline is the kind of thing that makes you want to put everything you take on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, it does encourage that. If you want to have that complete timeline and really get the
I
most
think
out
people
of it,
do if they don't have to work at it.
want to put everything there.
You know, Tumblr's got to be threatened by this. WordPress.com is going to be threatened by this.
WordPress.com just added a follow button to their blog.
Right.
So today is a big
And if you're a
day
public
for
figure, I think the subscribe button now can be very powerful. It really pushes you to use Facebook where you might have used Twitter or Google Plus to post your content. There's both personal and public benefit to it.
Thank you, Mark.
I think he was on to make Mark seem more exciting.
Well, you always have to have the...
You have to... Makes you look good, guy.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan.
That's also a Steve Jobs tradition.
I really love the
There's
app
Paul
that they
Adelini.
made, and I think that millions of more people are going to enjoy using it. But it's not just Spotify here. More than a dozen developers have worked with us to build
There's Mog,
social
Rhapsody,
music apps
iHeartRadio. That's the Clear channel. By the way, they're adding
helping
Pandora-style
you
features to
discover
that.
more music
I don't
for
see
your friends.
Pandora on that list.
Nope.
Slacker.
So I just want to take a minute to thank all of you guys. It's been
TuneIn is a
lot of
radio
fun to
streaming
rethink
app.
how
It's quite
listening
good.
to
I like it.
music
And
should be.
podcasts also. So this will add podcast listening.
That's on SoundCloud. That's what that logo is. I knew that. Thanks.
The SoundCloud's great for people who want to publish their own
Now,
material.
Open Graph
gonna be good for
isn't
independent
just about
musicians.
Yeah.
music. We
Great
think
way to
Open
discover
Graph is gonna be
independence,
Great
yeah.
for discovering all kinds of content, including TV shows and movies. So here's how this works. It's really similar to what I just showed you with music.
Was Turntable FM
See
in
if
there,
your friends
Scooter?
are
I didn't
walking
see
a
it.
Ticker, or if there are interesting patterns in news.
By the way, no
And
iTunes.
right
Good
here at the
point.
top of
Well,
your
yeah.
VLC,
Oh,
Not a
6 of my
surprise, but yeah.
friends
how could that
are
be?
watching an episode of Glee on Hulu. And
Who would
I can
do
just
that?
hover over that and click and watch it in a new social
You can watch it with
canvas
them
app,
and
Hulu
comment
Social.
with them.
And because
iTunes
it's a
could have
canvas
been
app,
in
that means
there
that
if that ping
everyone who
integration
uses it
had
will
ended up
be a
happening, but they
Facebook
couldn't work
user
it
and will
out.
have a social experience. Now, further down the
Story
page
was
here,
that
you can see that
Mark Zuckerberg
one of
asked
my
Steve
friends
Jobs,
have
well, we'll
recently
get all the
watched,
information from your
movies with
subscribers,
Johnny
right?
Depp in them,
And
which
Steve
is
said
interesting
no.
by itself. I mean,
And that was the end of that
no.
relationship.
Pattern
Then we
for Newsfeed to show you. It,
won't include
there's
you.
nothing like that
Then
in
we
the
got
product
ping.
today, and it just highlights that now with all this context from Open Graph, we're just going to be able to show so much more interesting patterns. But then I can just go ahead and click on the link.
I think this is very
and
compelling for the
player will show
content
up in Netflix,
companies as well.
and I can just watch
Because
parts of
presumably
the
they
right
will
there.
get the information about who's watching,
With all the
how they're
activity
watching.
that your
Yeah.
friends will now be able to share.
It's great for
you can
discovery,
discover
you know.
a lot more content.
They already
is going to have
Now-
more statistics to add.
That's right. And they
Here
already
is
know
the
that Twitter
friends
pushes
timeline.
people to live TV. This is
Carl's
that
video
writ large.
timeline view. And I can see from here all of the top things that he's watched.
Good question from our chat room. How global, how international is this? Most of these are U.S. companies, although Spotify's international.
Yeah,
This depends on how
these
they've implemented some of the the video stuff. Are they using the
episodes
embed of Hulu, or are they using?
Yeah, Hulu obviously won't work
They
outside
just
the
they
US.
just said
Highlights
with
from what he's
Netflix
done,
you
and,
you click through and
I
you
can
watch
just
it on the
be
Netflix
browsing the
site.
stuff from his
It
life and
tracks
just
and
happen
reports
upon
it.
this and discover this. It's a great way to discover new movies and TV shows. And of course, I can just go ahead and click on any of these, and they'll start playing in Netflix.
Of course, this is always a problem with all
With
content,
OpenGraph,
is
this
the
next wave of
balkanization of the world.
understands
It's just the nature of the
that if you can
beast,
help
unfortunately.
people discover an order of magnitude more content than they could before, then that enables all kinds of new models to work. You know, whether they're ad-supported, subscription-based, or ways to bring you content that they haven't even thought of before.
And Facebook takes this
So
little ka-ching out of each
These new
transaction.
companies aren't just rethinking the experience of watching content with your friends. They're helping to rethink these entire industries. And in the past year, Netflix has stated that one of their biggest strategic goals is to make all of their products more social. So I'd like to invite our board member and Netflix CEO, Reed Hastings, up here to
There
talk
you go.
about what Netflix is doing with Open
Is he
Graph.
going to get cheered?
Thanks, Mark.
The music's very loud, so you can't hear the reaction.
Oh, interesting. I think you're right.
2 quick good stories and 1 bad story. Lots of people have been telling me
messed up.
about Breaking Bad. The Netflix algorithms have been recommending Breaking Bad.
He kind of looks like Walter White, actually.
But, you know, there's a lot of recommendations that algorithms do, and I've just never gotten around to watching Breaking Bad. And yesterday, Facebook turned on this interaction that you're going to see for all the Netflix employees. And in the ticker, one of my friends, John Cincutti, it said, watching Breaking Bad right now. And somehow, even though that show had been recommended to me many times by Netflix, I'd never watched it. But somehow I knew I was going to see John today, and so I thought, oh, that'd be so cool. I click on Breaking Bad, and I watched it last night, and I realized, oh my God, there it is right in front of me.
Start a mess
Watching
business.
content because my friend did it really trumped because the algorithm. And the reason is because I know I'm going to see him about it. And I know he's going to ask me, and he's going to say, hey, you know, Walter's 50, and you're 50, and he tried to be good, and you tried to be good, and are you going to break bad too? So
I think Reed Hastings already did, actually.
He's just going to break in two.
About a year ago, Mark approached us on doing a tighter integration, getting the whole feed going. And
This
of
is
course,
Reed Hastings,
as
the
a
CEO of
partner
Netflix.
company, we were a little bit suspicious. Wait, you want all the viewing activity? You're going to have all this information about Netflix members, and doesn't that make us competitively vulnerable? And we spent a long time trying
thanks
to
to
figure
Facebook,
that
we can connect
out.
Quickster
and
with
finally I asked
Netflix
him, you know,
information.
what is success for you in this interaction, Mark? And he said, well, how big do you think you're going to grow next year? And I said X. And he said, success for Facebook is if Netflix grows to 2X. That fundamentally, if Netflix does huge success in pioneering social TV, then many other firms will also become social. And pioneering the social way is what Facebook and Mark are trying to do with the platform vendors. So we're super excited about all of these great applications, about the social aspect of Netflix. And the social aspect of Netflix, to give you the bad story, will be available. Netflix is in 45 countries around the world. And in 44 of them, Netflix-Facebook integration is available. In one of them, the United States of America, there's this outdated privacy law about video disc companies. And luckily, the U.S. Congress has a bill today in Congress to update that old privacy law, which will then allow us to also turn it on in the United States. So we'll blog about this afterwards, and pretty soon we'll be able to have the Netflix-Facebook integration in 45.
Don't worry about those privacy laws, folks.
So
Facebook
real
will get rid of
excited,
them.
And thank you all.
Yeah, you got to wonder why Congress is about to change that law. Serendipitous timing, or should I say frictionless serendipity.
Well, it's about the FBI not being able to see what videos you watched and put you on a subversive
The
list.
social version of Netflix accelerates the growth in the new markets that they're entering now. But of course, it's not just Netflix and Hulu here. More than a dozen partners have worked with us to build movie, TV, and video apps with Open Graph, all with the goal of helping you discover a lot more content.
Look at that.
But Hulu's on there.
TV's on there.
So I just want to take a
Oh,
moment
Miso,
to
that's a good idea.
TV.com.
It's really been a lot of fun
CBS
to rethink the experience of watching this content with you. So thank you.
Wish our logo were up there. But there's some other people saying that too.
Now, we think that Open Graph creates a great opportunity to rethink the way that we discover and read news as well. So now, for the first time, you're going to be able to use a social news app with Open Graph to be able to discover what your friends are reading first. Now, here's some news stories in my newsfeed. There are also really interesting patterns that are now possible to show because of all the activity that's there with Open Graph. And
are we going to get a
top, you'll see,
CEO on stage for each
here are
one
all
of these
the
elements?
most popular
Because
articles
I'd like to get to
that my
Windows
friends are
Weekly
reading
sometime
across
today.
the web on all of these social news apps. So I can just go ahead and click on astronauts. And it'll bring it up in Yahoo News. Yahoo News is by far the largest news site on the web, and they're going to use Open Graph
Smart.
to make it so that you can discover more news stories through your friends. This is going to be available on Yahoo News. Now back to feed, I can also see that 30 of my friends are reading articles today about F8. That's an interesting pattern too. And it'll show me all of the articles that my friends are reading. And I can just go ahead and click on this. This time I want to click on the one from Washington Post at the top. And there it is, a new app from the Washington Post called Washington Post Social Reader, where you can use this to read every piece of content from the Washington Post and their properties. You can see what your friends are reading in those properties. I can click on any of the stuff if I want. And because this is a Canvas app, everyone who uses this will be a Facebook user and can have a social experience. Now, sometimes you don't want to wait for some kind of big pattern to develop, right? And you just want to see news in real time as it's breaking. And for that, Ticker is great. So I can just see, Chris has read this story on the daily, and it just ticks into my ticker, and I can click on it, and it pops up in the daily, which is a new Canvas app.
Robert Scoble's saying that
is releasing this app.
when Apple makes its announcement on October 4th,
only inside Facebook.
in fact, perhaps they will do a social
that eventually everyone is
TV
going to
that ties into
discover news
this.
that they're going to read through their friends.
Speculation, or
it looks like speculation.
More than a dozen developers have worked with us to build social news apps using Open Graph, all with the goal of helping you discover and read more news.
Dig.
Flipboard.
And I'm personally really excited about this. I think that it has the potential to not only rethink the way that we all read news, but to rethink a lot of the way that the whole news industry works. So I'm really excited about this, and I'm thankful to the partners who have worked with us to do this. So thank you, guys.
Somebody asked what Facebook will look like in 640 by 480.
Well, the mobile timeline looked pretty good, actually.
Are killing it. Games have been the most successful apps on Facebook. And we think that Open Graph is going to take social games to the next level and make them a lot better by helping you discover even more games that you want to play through your friends. Now, first, one of the big things that you're going to notice is that with Open Graph, you're no longer going to have this. Because now with Open Graph, you have a nice, clear dialogue up front, and they can just add activity to your timeline for you, so you don't have to have this experience. And we think that that alone is going to make games a lot better. But even more important is that now when you see your friends playing games across the site, you're going to see real things that they're doing. So instead of before where it was mostly just, okay, this person is playing a game, I can now see, something ticks into my ticker. It's Mike playing Words with Friends with Carl. And I can see right there the word that they played, which is pretty cool. And I can hover over it.
Wow, that actually is cool.
And it has the picture of their game board and the word that he played right there.
Very
Which would be annoying if it was in your main newsfeed, but because of the
ticker,
the way the ticker works, that's really smart.
Very serendipitous. I do like the fact that you can hover over the ticker and see the content it's referring
to. Now with
to.
Open Graph, it's a really cool game, very addictive, if you guys haven't tried it. And it's a really neat experience. And we think that this is going to make social games a lot better. So we've worked with more than a dozen folks to build social games using Open Graph, all with the goal of bringing these frictionless experiences and even more games to all of you guys. So social games have really already transformed the way that we play games and the way that the gaming industry works.
See any
but
surprises,
we think that Open
PopCap
Graph
Sims.
is just going to take this to the next level. So thank you, guys. This is going to be good. Now, the last category of apps that I want to talk about we're calling lifestyle apps. And they're these apps that just help you keep track of and express different things from your life, right? So, maybe you're walking or running, you're cooking or eating, or anything else that you want to keep track of and express. And we think that a lot of people want to know what they're doing and keep track of these things. And I know that a lot of people are starting to build these apps, but we think that the combination of that and Open Graph is going to make this space really take off. So I think that this is going to be really big. Now, you can see here, this is a report from a Nike app for running called Nike Plus. I can see on it, this is the longest run that I did. Here are the people that I go running with. They're the places that I run. And it's really easy to use. I just pull my phone out of my pocket, say that I'm going for a run. I can say who I'm with, start, and it uses GPS to do the rest. It tracks where I've run, my pace, the total distance that I've gone. It's really cool, and it adds all that activity, and then at the end of a month,
Apple
I
and
get this nice
Facebook
report
are
going up
the
all my
axis
activity.
against Google. It makes sense for
Of course, if you want this app, you
Apple
can
to
just
be more
hover
involved
over it in
with
my
this.
timeline, click Add to Timeline, and it's yours.
But does Facebook even need a hardware
Now,
manufacturer?
another thing I really
Does
like
Apple's
about my
position
timeline
on
is
sharing
my
data
food that I
change
eat.
now that Tim
So I'm
Cook
going to do
is the
this with
CEO?
food spotting. And
Get another
you know,
iPhone
here
app.
I could just see here are the foods that I've enjoyed, and here are the things that I've spotted. And again, really easy to do. I just pull my phone out of my pocket, tap to open the app, enter it. I can even take a picture. It'll aggregate all the interesting stuff that I'm doing, giving me this nice report every month. I haven't had time.
It does make food spotting more useful if it's in a timeline as opposed to having to go to each individual site to see this data aggregated.
Now, it's not just Nike and food spotting here. We've worked with dozens and dozens of other partners here as well to build this completely new class of social apps, all with the goal of helping you express who you are and discover new things through your friends. So I want to say thank you for all of the partners that we've worked
That's
with
interesting.
to make the next version of Open Graph
That's
come
still
to
around.
life. So thank you.
Well, that's the only way color makes any sense, frankly, is if it's tied into something like that. Discuss, it's always been there.
Model today.
StubHub.
Color banded
That's what I
app
wanted to show you
independent
today.
for Facebook.
Enough? We have we got the Open Graph. It's a completely new class of social apps to discover new things through your friends with frictionless experiences, real-time serendipity, and finding patterns in your friends' activity. And now, I want to show you a little video that we made about these new apps that are now possible.
Draw for artists here is that people are more likely to buy in this case, so you may sell more music.
And listen to your song more often
That's
because
right.
I see other people listening.
That's right. And it's good for Rainbow Chard. Look at that. Sales of Rainbow Chard through the roof.
Rainbow Chard farmers are loving
Look at that. They're happy. The Rainbow Chard Association of America.
Local Rainbow Chard?
I swear to God, you're going to see a run on Rainbow Chard in the next few days.
You might.
They're all chasing after her.
Yeah.
Yes, give me that chard.
Did not run the whole park. Wow, that's impressive.
You can tell the people at Facebook there are a lot of runners at Facebook, obviously. Nobody I know actually runs.
They're trying to get privacy.
I run.
I'm lucky if I can walk. You run?
Yeah.
That's good. I'll be watching you all run on Facebook.
I never
No.
track it. Yeah, exactly.
Will you now?
No.
That you can share it with your friends?
It's between me and my dog.
A Django track?
No, Sawyer. And he will, yeah.
Only on Twitter, though.
Now, there's a lot more detail about how to actually build these apps. And in order to go through that, I'd like to invite our CTO, Brett Taylor, up here to walk you through it. Brett?
One of the founders of FriendFeed, former Googler.
And listens to Kenny G. Was that Brett?
Kenny G. Yeah. Kenny G and Tech9
Thank you
fan.
very much. My name's Brett Taylor, and I'm Facebook's Chief Technology Officer. I'm going to walk you through how Open Graph actually works, how your apps fit into this new vision for our product.
Those of you tuning in for Windows Weekly, I apologize for the delay, but we do want to cover this because I think it's fairly important. We will get to Windows Weekly as soon as the keynote ends. You're watching live coverage of the
I've
F8
been on
keynote.
Facebook for a relatively long time. I have about 6 years.
Yeah, the question is he going to have another announcement to slip in at the end? Is he going to do a one more thing sort of thing? This seems to be the developer part of the presentation where they're going to, because he said that's all we have to announce, and now he's going to tell us how to build it.
Yeah, one more thing. We bought
I'm not
Hulu.
going to publish a
Bye.
status update every time I
That'd be
walk
great.
up to my stove. But I'd love it to have all the recipes on my profile automatically. And I definitely want to see the recipes my friends are finding. I'm also a runner. It would be awesome to have all my runs on my profile automatically. And this May, when I run the Beta Breakers, I want that map and my time right next to that photo of me crossing the finish
We don't
line.
want pictures, though, of Beta Breakers.
And according to Mark, I'm apparently a huge Kenny G fan. And the story of who I am is certainly incomplete without that epic Kenny G playlist. And perhaps most importantly in the context of F8, I'm a programmer. I maintain 3 or 4 different GitHub projects, and they're a really big part of my professional identity.
Is my
If
GitHub's
my
going
colleagues saw my timeline and it didn't have my GitHub project,
That's awesome.
it would be an
That's
incomplete
cool.
picture of who I am.
I love it.
And this is really the opportunity of Open Graph.
Brett Taylor
For
committed
every
an
person,
update.
For every individual interest and individual activity, there's an app that you'll write that will make their timeline the personal experience we know it can be.
Now we know if he truly
Open
does
Graph
listen to Kenny G while
is
programming.
really the biggest change we've made to our platform since we
And the
launched
privacy
almost 4
implications
years ago
are
at the first
apparent.
F8. Since that F8, social applications have really all been about sharing. But Open Graph apps are about so much more than that. They're about self-expression, and they're about serendipity. Take that running app. I didn't add it to my timeline because I really needed my friends to see any particular run. I added it to my timeline because running's important to me. And as a great side effect, now I get to find all the routes my friends are finding. My cooking app is another good example. I don't want to spam my friends' news feeds every time I pick up a spatula. But it would be awesome if my friends looking at my timeline saw the recipes I've been cooking. Open Graph enables this in a lightweight way that would have never been possible if my cooking app popped up a share dialogue every time.
Would you want your apps to automatically kind of know what you're doing and add this to your timeline? Or do you want to do this manually?
I can see that for recipes because you might try out things and you just forgot to put it in there. So see, like, what did I make 3 days ago? That kind of thing. But I guess it really depends on what kind of application it is.
Now, what I like is the idea that the timeline is going to place an importance on it for me, so it's not just going to spam
And you
everything
can go
in
back
there.
later and organize.
And I can curate it, but it's not just going to throw everything in the timeline.
This is really Gordon Bell's, what do you call that, the Mimeo, the thing that would record all the events of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
We've tried to make the act of people discovering your app as frictionless as user experience. As you saw in Mark's demos, adding an app to your timeline really is just a one-click experience. You click Add to Timeline, and you're done. Adding an app to your timeline is like wiring a real-time connection between your app and Facebook. Let's take iHeartRadio.
This is again a
iHeartRadio
call
is
out to
cool
developers
radio service,
to
and
support
they're completely
this.
integrated with Facebook. They're one of our launch partners today.
This is a Clear Channel product. You can listen to the tech guy on this, by the way, as well as all the Clear Channel
or in your
stations.
browser,
They're
you'll
adding
see the same
Pandora-style
simple button,
stations, artist
Add
stations
to
as well.
Timeline. And right next to that button, you're going to see screenshots of exactly what iHeartRadio looks like on your timeline. You'll have a really concrete picture of what you're getting into before you even start using the app. And then when I click Add to Timeline, I'm done. There is no step 2. I can just start using the app and listening to music. And every time I listen to a song, my timeline just magically updates. I just had to make one decision in this whole experience. Do I want music on my timeline?
Again, an iPhone
And once
screenshot,
I've made
although
that
this app is
decision,
available
I
on
can
all
just use the
platforms.
Looks like Timeline might have gone live. I got a login.
Did you? I'm jealous.
The most important thing
I want it.
iHeartRadio has done is
It just took me to it gave me a login, but when I logged in, it just took me to an introduction to
by
Timeline.
making that Add to Timeline such a prominent part of the sign-up experience, they're setting the expectation.
Well, don't
for
worry,
every
because
single one of their
everything you do
users.
on Facebook is building your timeline for the future.
You don't even have to post.
You don't
It's
have to do
capturing you in
anything.
real time.
They're not asking my
You know how easy it
permission
is to
be
turn that
social.
stuff off
It's a
once you've
feature of
opted
Why
in.
would you want to do that,
I'm using
Iyaz?
iHeartRadio
I'm
because
sorry,
I want that
Iyaz.
music.
I can't do
I
that.
want music on my timeline. And by setting this expectation,
The
for
sign-up
every
button is
single one of
grayed
their
out,
users
though.
up
Yeah.
front, they can make the
I
rest
clicked it
of
a
the
minute ago,
experience
and
completely
it said
frictionless.
Yeah, right.
soon.
They
I
don't
got
need
that
share
too.
buttons everywhere. They don't
That's
need to
interesting.
redesign their
I
app.
wonder if they'll go live
The
right
play
after
button
this.
on iHeartRadio looks like any other play button I have on my iPhone.
All right, so we are going to switch over to Windows Weekly now. Leah Laporte is setting up. Mary Jo Foley and Paul Thurrott will be joining him. We will be covering any further announcements from F8's keynote on Tech News Today later today, around 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific, after Windows Weekly and iPad Today.